welcome to another edition of Stretchers, Scandals, and Unsubstantiated Scuttlebutt. In this series, we're looking at stories from Scripture and then the myths and legends that surround them. Throughout the years, whenever we read about a minor character in Scripture and we don't have a whole lot of information about them, our imaginations have taken hold, and we've begun to try and guess what those characters may have been like, or what the circumstances may have been surrounding famous events. And so we're looking at some of those stories, and it's important to remember these are not true stories, and these are not Bible stories. They're stories about Bible stories. And so last week we looked at from Judges chapter 4 at this character named Sisera, who is, according to the myths and the legends, a larger-than-life, almost supervillain character. Well, what happened with Sisera was he and his army had these iron chariots, and they were oppressing the people of Israel. And that's when God decided to use kind of an unlikely pair of heroes to do battle against this massive army. You see, there was a woman named Deborah, and she used to send people into the holy places with lamps or candles. And the story goes, now this is again not in the Bible, but the story goes that whenever she would send people to the holy places, she would give them special wicks so that their lamps and their candles would burn a little brighter and a little longer, so there would be more light in the holy places, and that as people prayed to God, there would be light that would shine to everyone else. Now, according to the legend, God noticed this practice of Deborah's, and it did something really, really interesting to the people all around as they saw light in the holy places, and as prayers began to bring light to the nation. And God decided that he would, since Deborah was bringing light to the people, God would bring light to everyone through her. And so God chose to use Deborah as a judge and almost as a prophet or prophetess to help the people turn back to God. And it's through Deborah that the people and their commander, a man named Barak, who in Scripture, it comes to Deborah for help. Some of the legends have speculated that perhaps they at some point had fallen in love and gotten married. An interesting little story, probably not historically true, but nonetheless, Deborah and Barak ended up together going to battle against this super villain Sisera. And in the Bible, what we find is that these massive iron chariots, and if you remember from our story last week, Sisera's in particular was very heavy. These massive iron chariots, they had a little trouble maneuvering in the terrain, and as the people of God went to battle against Sisera and his soldiers, there was water and a flood, and as the ground turned to mud, the chariots got stuck, enabling the people of God to overcome their enemies and to reach victory. Now, the story about the lamps and the wicks and the brightness, it's a wonderful story. It's not in the Bible, but there is something kind of interesting about this notion that we should bring light in our prayers. And as we spend time in worship, as we go into those holy places which have transformed for us in the last few months, but when we spend time in these places where we worship, what a wonderful opportunity to bring light and hope to the people around us and to change the lives of our neighborhoods. Our faith should make the world a little bit of a better place. Well, that's all we have, all the time we have for today, but we'll continue our Stretchers, Scandals, and Unsubstantiated Scuttlebutts next time with another story about the stories from Scripture.